Trans Siberian World Cup by Peter Dench. So it's a book about Peter's travels in Russia, starting from Moscow right through to Vladivostok. It's got a bit of a special place in my heart, this book, because it's football, which I like. It's Dench's work, which I like. But it's a journey I've done. I've spent a total of about 12 days on the Trans Siberian in my life. I've covered Russia twice on the Trans Siberian. It is an incredible journey. So when I knew he was doing this, I was so excited and very jealous at the same time. And I knew it would be a great book. It is a fantastic book. It's classic Peter Dench. Let's have a look through it. It's about 180 pages, so I would say there's a lot of pictures in it. It's his journey, and it's a really little education on how to sort of have an idea, pitch an idea, get the funding for an idea, and get out and shoot the idea, put it into a book, market it, and get it out as an exhibition. These books were going for free for the first 250 visitors at the After 9 Gallery on its lawns, and I was lucky enough to get one. I'm not sure how to buy it, but I'm sure if you got in touch with Peter and you crossed his palm with some silver, I'm sure he would part with the book. So I'll leave his details for his website on the information box at the end of the video. Get in touch with him and ask him if you want one, and make sure you get it signed as well. So let's have a look at it. Let's go back to the size. It looks and is reminiscent of the Blue Coat Press size. It's got that 11.5, just under 11. It's got that squarish feel to it. It's just a little bit off from a square, and it's a great cover. Let's have a look at the back. Right, that's it. So there's the trip itself, and here's Moscow right down to Vladivostok. And I've been to Khabarovsk, I've been to Irkutsk, I've been right up there to Lake Baikal, Omsk, Novosibirsk, and Moscow, and a couple of places, Ulan-Ude. I've stopped off at all of them stations over the years, and it's an incredible journey. And everything he's discussed later about the journey and his experiences, I totally empathise with what he went through and what he did and what he experienced to get the pictures, and a great story. So sponsored by Olympus, and as you know, Peter's a visionary for Olympus. This is the foreword, an introduction by him, and it looks like a Russian passport. I'm not really sure what it is. It's obviously Russian, and that's the sort of beginning. The only thing I think this book's missing is some detail. Now, that could be Moscow, it could be anywhere. It reminds me of Vladivostok, but it's probably Moscow. And there's a plaque and everything at the end of each line to commemorate the journey. Well, I'd just like to see in a little bit of text there. Nevertheless, that's the beginning shot. I can't remember the name of that. The Provagnitsa or Provagnitsi, I'm not really sure. That's the people who look after each of the carriage. And each of the carriage you've got like a water urn, like a hot boiling water thing, or you did when I was on it, and each carriage was governed by a Provagnitsa, or whatever the male or female equivalent is, and they would guard your carriage because there were people sleeping in it, and two, they would look after you, give you linen and make sure there's water. It really massively helpful in the middle of winter, and it's a totally different experience. And these are the cups you get. You drop this down a little bit, and when I was on it, these were the cups you'd get, and I wish I'd got one as a commemorative, but I never did. I was always honest. So setting the scene, set the scene of the train, set the scene of the setup. These are like the billets or whatever they're called, and you get 4 people or 2 people billets, and then you get a big communal billet. I think it's a billet. It's not really, it's like a little your room with the bed in. It's fantastic. I love this shot actually. That's great. So there's a bit of ratio change on this. There's some stuff which looks square. There's some stuff which looks back like it's the 4:3 setting. I'm really interested to know what this new Olympus is like to shoot on. I've got earlier Olympuses, and I haven't really got anything modern with the Olympus setup and digital, and I love shooting with the Olympus I've got, and I'd love to know what the new Olympus is like, and it's exciting to use. So anyway, aspect ratio change, Argentinian supporter. Again, you'd have to have a knowledge of where Argentina were playing to get an idea of where this is. And focus on the girls. I think I just keep to the left or the right side. So that should be about right there. So I'm going to stick to the right. If you want more of an insight into this, go and get it. If it becomes unavailable, I'll put a full version on and go through it with every page. Now this guy, man, this guy, I seem to turn to this page every time I look at this book, and that sort of title really disturbs me quite a bit, but nevertheless, he's got a bit of a work of art going on there, and I think Denmark, I may be wrong. So he's setting the scene with the train, the people, the supporters, the sort of paraphernalia with the T-shirts and stuff like that. So he's obviously random. He's looking for people, isn't he? He's looking for the random person who stands out from the crowd. So he's getting the portraiture side of it. Great shot. He's covering the countries, isn't he? So trying to get us each one of the 32 nations, I guess. And there's the sort of the fan fest screens. A lot of alcohol consumed. That's a great shot. It's just capturing that moment, isn't it? It's like, look at that. He's a clever photographer, man. I guess this features a lot with the selfies, and something I guess Peter's been looking out for, use of the technology and people sending pictures back of themselves and the selfies and stuff like that. There is a few of them in this book. So we've got a lot of static portraiture, a lot of identifying the fans, a lot of the T-shirts, just the whole setting the scene. We've got no football matches apart from the screen, which is fine. This is a fans book, seeing how fans interact with the landscape and just in the environment of supporting the club, really. The alcohol-fueled supporting life of a World Cup supporter in a foreign land. And this, as you can see, is the cover. Right there, we'll take that down. It's such an interesting book. It definitely needs some text in it though. Some great portraits. Look at these. I love the use of flash as well. I love that. And some beautiful shots. He's a great photographer, Peter. He knows, he reminds me of an old school operator in terms of the photography side. He manages to have ideas, he manages to get backing for it, he gets out there, he shoots it, he keeps going. He's been mega productive book-wise over the last 3 years. He's got a really good editing technique in his book publications as well. And we're going from girls, beer, tube station, travel, back to the Trans Siberian. Now are we going to go somewhere else? Was that all Moscow before us? Are we going somewhere else now? The Russian sailors at army. It's a very common sight on the trains. You get a lot of soldiers and a lot of servicemen and women travelling. So I guess we're on the move again. Yeah. So there's no page number, so I don't know where I'm at. But this is a common sight as well. These vendors which you get all the way along the line. It took a while when I was on it to get used to the stops, because you'd stop at 3 in the morning and there'd be people selling stuff and just jumping off for 5 seconds. You want to get off the train, you're on it for 2 days, 3 days. It's quite scary when you don't know the terrain, and because all your stuff's on there, and if it starts and you can't get back on, you are stuck in a foreign land, really, in the middle of nowhere. But it's an incredible journey. I would advise everybody to have a go at it at least once. Train again, look at that. always looking for stuff, always looking for links with the pictures, with the frame. We're back now on a journey. It's great. Back to the beer, back to the football. The Spanish, I think. Is that the Spanish? Oh no, Belgian, Brazilian. Look at that. I like that with the blues and the reds. Very observant. It's good, you know, this is good, you know. This is shot over a week or 10 days or 2 weeks. It's not easy, he just makes it look easy. It must have been exhausted coming from this, because just to travel is exhausting enough, but shooting, and one thing you've got to remember about this stuff is that you sort of have to come back with the goods. It's the pressure. It's not something you just have a day off and go, oh, you know, this is not going to happen again. You've got to capture everything. You've got to be on the ball. You've got to be on the case. You've got to shoot. You've got to be looking. You've got to be linking up the narrative on the final output in your head. You've got to be thinking, what's it going to look like? What am I missing? What do I need to do? So he's going to be continually shooting and shooting and shooting. And it's not something you can turn off to. It's something you've got to keep on going. And I love this sort of stuff. And this, for now, is really interesting me, this style of photography, of integrating this sort of setup, this sort of mock-up, with this sort of production and this sort of reportage. And I love the link-up. I love the association with this sort of stuff and this. And it's got me thinking about almost sequences. And I love the way this is the 3-course meal with the bill. Brazil. I think he's done a whole series of Putin-type T-shirts. And the green, look at the green there. Clever. And I think in your edit, if you are trying to link pictures, it doesn't have to have really... when you're doing it as in the book, it has to have some relationship. But that beer and them boiler suits are so far apart, they would never connect them. But when Pete's, I guess, maybe editing, he's looking to how to link that, and it's not an easy link. You could put a picture here of maybe a vendor on the side of the train station, and that would associate, you could like put it there, and that shot there would work with it. But the fact that he's took in consideration the green bottles with the green boiler suits is really, really, really clever. There's a lot of togetherness on this. There's a lot of people being in this together and holding up together, and a lot of partnerships within this as well, with people, and a lot of standing around and a lot of observational stuff of people doing that, people being observational, people looking. The night scene, very common sight on that train. And people sleeping. That's interesting how he's associated the night and then he's moved into sleeping. It's pretty good. Memorabilia, bars. Again, that sort of old architecture and things left. Now he's got the dog theme. I love that. It's so subtle, that shot. It's fantastic. It really is. Great observation. And he'll be looking at stuff, he'll see stuff like that, and he'll come back to it, he'll keep going back to it and going back to it till something comes together. And I like the fact that he's got shorts on as well. And it's like, it's very clever. That's such a good shot. Looking out for stuff like that. I guess stuff like that you see and you think, my birthday's come, just to get in without anybody else at all. It's just fantastic. And you've got to be in it to win it, really. The same as that. These are really clever shots. And this is classic Dench for me. It's really great observational photography, being at the right place, making the subtleties of what's going on really interesting and standing out from the rest of the crowd. It's fantastic. Back to the beer, some great portraits, classic Russian look. In the carriages, I think this is the communal carriage. This is where the army would be. This is where everybody would be drunk on a night. It would be quite nerve-wracking. Look at that. Brilliant. I'll show you the backs of people now, the flags, travelling. I'm keeping away from the left side. Look at that. Look at that. That's quite. People again resting. The portraits again trying to cover all the nations. I love that. Look at that with the Putin there, and that with the Lenin and the Stalin. Is there Stalin there? Maybe just Lenin. Really good. A lot of great stuff in here. A lot of stuff I've missed out. It's on the other side. That's a classic Dench. I think, like I said, you know, this is a really good. There's a lot of pictures in here, so he's not had much or many problems with an edit. Not with such a big a book. I think if it had been a little small coffee table size book, I'd have guessed that he was struggling. But with something like this, and got umbrellas, he's ticking themes off, isn't he? He's very clever. Going back to what I was just about to say, this is more the Russian away from the football, the everyday life. There he is there. And there he is there. I'm going to end on that. What I'm trying to say, what I keep sort of touching on, is that Pete's shown that a good idea, some belief, some hard work, and being able to present yourself to potential sponsors and people who can maybe help you visualise and realise your dream is no mean feat. It's quite a job, and he actually does it. He does it all the time, and he pulls it off. And he's a good operator, Pete. And I think, you know, we can learn from something like this. We can learn that you can do stuff if you believe in it. That you can get the backing, and you can follow a sort of idea and a dream off to go off and do something. And this is what it's all about at the end of the day. What's in this book? And he's delivered it, you know. And I think, what was this, a couple of weeks' work? That's a sign of a great photographer, a good storyteller, and somebody who wants to really just get out there and develop his craft. Thank you.